Hello there, guys. It is me, the ex whatever, and today we're doing What If Deku Had the World, or AKA Zawaldo. Okay, so I'll start from my Deku. In this universe, quirkless people are for people who are quirkless are reduced to 2%. And the other is 97% with quirks. So, even though in the anime, like how he was the 20%, and this one, it's a lot. It's like 10 times more worse than him ever getting bullied. Every day, anyway, I'll start. We start with Izuku when he first got diagnosed quirkless. Ever since then, his life has been terrible. Except the part when he comes home to his mom, because his mom is the only one that cares about him. And one day, when he gotten the beating of Bakugo again, when he came home, he dropped his phone, and he saw his mother in front of him, lying there, motionless. "Mom?" Izuku said. Izuku rushed over to his mom and tries to say Mom, please, Mom, don't leave me. He began starting to cry, crying his eyes out. 2 weeks later, he's accepted to Katsuki's residence. And after the funeral to his mother, Izuku got beaten up more, because now, since he's living at the Bakugo's residence, and Mitsuki accepted him because Inko and Kat's Mitsuki were best friends. She didn't care if he was quirkless or not, except for Bakugo. Bakugo was a piece of shit to him. Kept beating him up when he tried to go to sleep, until finally Izuku was knocked out. And we cut to the last day of school, as the teacher's like, "Okay, everyone, now let's see. I know what you all want to really be." The teacher throws the papers up in the air and they all scatter around. "You want to be heroes!" As everyone's cheering, and as the teacher says, "Let's see. We have Bakugo Katsuki going to UA," and Bakugo's like, You extras better not be in UA, because otherwise I'll make sure I destroy you." And the other one is Izuku Midoriya. As Bakugo looks at him, smirks, "You little shit. You never learn, do you?" As Izuku's, scared. As after Izuku leaves class, he gets ganged up by Bakugo's goons in an alleyway. They start beating the hell out of him. And then Bakugo grabs Izuku's hair really forcefully, and it really hurts Izuku. And Izuku's arms completely broken, and his legs snapped in several places and shattered. As Bakugo says, "Listen, Deku, you're a pathetic waste of my time. If you try to enter the hero course, I will not hesitate to kill you." As Bakugo lets go of Izuku and walks away, smiling as he puts his hands in his pockets. As Izuku begins getting up, sliding across the wall, he's like, if I had the quirk, would Bakugo still be the same? It doesn't matter. In this world, quirks are nothing but a burden, or just stupid. I wish quirks never existed, but who am I to judge? God decided to suddenly do this. As when Nezuko's getting out of the alleyway, he trips over something. He looks where he tripped over and he sees a mask. He looks at the mask very peculiar, and he decides to pick it up, put it in his backpack. And the arrow also had something, and it also had a book in it. It also had a book next to it. So Zuko grabbed that as well and put it in his backpack. And Zuko's like, damn it. As Zuko's walking under the bridge, trying to act like none of his bones are broken, he gets taken over by the sludge villain, like, give me your body, kid. And Zuko's like, what's the point of fighting back? It's no use. And all Izuku could hear was, smash! As the sludge villain gets blown away, as it drops Izuku, and as All Might looks at the kid who was surprisingly, who was, to all my surprise, looked very injured before the sludge villain could even, possess him. So All Might took this kid to the hospital, and Izuku asked All Might a question behind his back, like, hey, All Might. All Might's like, yeah? Could you be a hero without a quirk? As All Might stayed silent for 3 seconds. He said, I don't believe so, kid. Maybe if you're a police officer, or a business worker, or a supporter, then maybe, but no. I do not believe quirkless people can be heroes. As Zuko's heart sank. His idol, the very person he looked up to, broke his dream. He shattered it in front of Zuko. And Zuko stayed silent the whole way. And plus, when he reached the hospital, the doctors examined him, and Mitsuki was pretty pissed because she knows who did it. And Bakugo got the living shit beat out of him. And he was grounded for fucking, I don't know, for life, for doing this. As Zuko sat crying on the hospital bed, he began, reaching over to his backpack, but he couldn't reach it. So he grabbed the button, next to the bed and called for assistance. As a nurse came, oh, hello there. My name is, I do not want to give this character a name, so, anonymous. As Zuko's could you hand me my backpack, please? As the nurse, says, okay, Mr. Midoriya. As she grabs his backpack and gives it to him, is there anything else you need? As Zuko's no. As the nurse says, okay then. As she nurse brows, I hope you can recover soon. As Izuku's I hope not. As Izuku first opens his backpack and gets the book, he begins to read it, but an arrow pops out of it and lands right next to him. As Izuku begins examining it, it was I don't really care. As Izuku decides to put it right beside him on the table, he begins reading it. The book. And as Izuku begins reading it, his curiosity began to grow even more, and said about how to use this Hamon, which was really surprising, but this Hamon does not count as a quirk, and also a task to achieve heaven. piqued Izuku's interest. He's really curious about what does this mean to achieve heaven. As he flipped the page, he began reading it. If someone found this book, then you are very fortunate, the fellow reader of this book. Right now, I am dead. Or, so precisely, I am no longer here. But I pass down this dream to you. Achieve what I couldn't, or what I can't. Two ways to achieve heaven, you must have 36 sinners, or whatever. I can't remember how many numbers, so it's enough. I'll look it up later. But anyway, as he begins looking further and further, reading it more and more, he begins to get halfway about 2 weeks later, and Izuku's like, what the hell? As he gets to the page of the vampire mask, and how this will enhance his strength in turning him to a vampire, and also make him immortal. However, the downside is he can't walk in the sunlight. However, for some reason, you can actually find a way to get around that. Apparently, when you put on the mask, you just gotta... Okay, guys. In part 2, I want someone to say okay, when he absorbs someone, he has to find someone with an anti-sun quirk. And Izuku will either drain their blood so that he can have that quirk and be invincible to the sun. So, aka, he can walk in sunlight. If you guys don't want that, then I completely understand. But, let's get on to it. As Izuku begins reading more about the mask in the book, it's the book's named Dio, and he sees how to do it. He didn't believe it, but he wanted to test it. But he didn't have any sharp objects with him, so what does he do? He grabs the arrow and cuts his finger with it. Man, this arrow hurt a lot more than it did. As Izuku drips the blood on the mask, all of a sudden the mask, deploys these sharp, claws, over itself, or behind it, which scared Izuku. And Izuku was pretty surprised. But Izuku would wonder, would this kill him? Or would this grant him what the book said? But then Izuku decided to do this. He put on the mask and dropped blood on it. And all of a sudden, the mask grappled onto him, unlocking the brain. And all of a sudden, the arrow began to move. And it lodged into Izuku's neck. It went into his neck and began going into it. As it was doing this, and as the mask was doing this at the same time, Izuku laid back onto his bed, unconscious. And next thing when he woke up, he was really thirsty. And he was like... As Izuku grabbed the mask, and as he intentionally got up, he noticed one thing: his body didn't hurt anymore, or in fact, it felt stronger than ever. And Izuku was much more muscular. But another one thing he noticed in the mirror that he grabbed right next to him is that he had fangs underneath his teeth, which really surprised him. But he begins grabbing the book and what happens when the axe activates, because he hasn't read that part. He reads about how it turns you into a vampire. He's like, what? I'm a vampire? Oh, that would explain this insane thirst. As he flips the page about what the hell this arrow is, as he reads, like, this arrow will grant you a stand. And if you're reading this page, then you've received my stand, the world, or aka the world, is what I call it. The world can stop time, but the more longer you live, the stronger it will become. However, if you learn to use hormone in the vampire body, then maybe you'll be able to get stronger with the hormone, like I did. Or, aka, I use a Joestar's body. Unfortunately, the Joestars, if you're reading this, that a Joestar also reading this page, then the Joestars are probably all gone by now. Or still around, or just too old, or just very old. Besides, I hope you take care of my stand. As Zigu's like, what? He's like, what the fuck? As he begins like thinking about, the instructions say how to summon it. So Izuku begins on, like, focusing on something to materialize, and it worked. And as Izuku turned around, he sees his stand. It was yellow and looked very muscular and taller than him. And when Izuku looks at it, he sees how strong it is, or the aura it has. And Izuku feels its potential, like how much it can grow, or how much it can evolve or become stronger. Izuku was very fascinated, but before Izuku could analyze even further, a nurse came in. The nurse came in that helped him, and she like, she was like got in. She went into the door unintentionally, like, "Okay, Mr. Midoriya." As she looks up to Midoriya standing, and she sees his arms completely healed. And as Izuku's like, "Shit, what do I do? If she sees the mask, then she'll be asking questions. What do I do?" As out of instinct, Izuku, all of a sudden, the world began to like slow down and stop. Everything was gray and white. As Izuku looked around, it's like, what is this? As Izuku grabs the book and grabs the mask and puts it in his backpack, because he's like, I'm not gonna waste this opportunity. As Izuku does this and puts the mask in his backpack, and as time began to resume, 5 seconds later, the nurse like, Midoriya? How are you? As she begins saying like, she begins looking at Steve like, did you awaken your quirk? Let me just see how long I've been doing this. 18 minutes, not bad, but as Zuko begins like nodding his head yes, and the nurse is like, congratulations, Mr. Midoriya. You've got yourself a quirk. As Zuko's like, I guess I was a late bloomer? I was diagnosed quirkless, and the nurse says, oh, so you really were a late bloomer then. Well, I hope you have a good time. Take care. As Zuko's like, menacingly, like, sorry, but as Zuko just disappeared in front of her, and the door closed behind her, as Izuku could not no longer hold his, how should I say it, his hunger. As Izuku began, like, grabbing the nurse's throat, and begin, like, and as his, like, fingers begin seeping into her skin, and she's like, Mr. Midori, what are you? As then all of a sudden her blood begins draining from her, turning her into a dry grape. As Zigu like throws her away, like, that felt refreshing. As Iga grabs his backpack and puts it on his back, it's like, wow, whatever this power is, fascinating. As Zigu like disappears, and the camera's fucking recording this shit. However, the camera also recorded the mask incident, so that to be continued. Yes, JoJo reference. So please like and share, subscribe if you really did like this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And goodbye.